Thank you all very much for being here today. I want to acknowledge in particular a number of ministers of the Crown, Minister Brownlee. I think we've got Kate Wilkinson, Minister Wilkinson over there as well. I saw Nikki Wagner, Christchurch Central. I saw Ruth Dyson, a number of councillors, community board members. I think Mayor David Ayres from Waimakariri is along here today. I don't know if Kelvin from Selwyn is here, but any councillors from Selwyn, welcome along. It's good to have you here. Also want to acknowledge Gary Knowles, who is now our area commander for police. Whereabouts are you? Saw you here. Welcome along. First day on the job yesterday, 8:30 a.m. Quick dive under the desk, I hear. It was a little bit of an initiation. Yeah, good to have you here. Also, I know we've got Dan Coward from the Fire Services here as well. I'm sure a number of other people representing some of the other services that are involved, basically the team from the EOC. Also, Roger Sutton, Chief Executive of Sarah, is here. Welcome along, Roger. And later on in the program, we'll certainly offer that opportunity if either Minister Brownlee or Roger want to get in and add some additional material to what we'll be discussing today. But I'd like you to meet a couple of our panellists here. First of all, Kelvin Berryman. Many of you will know Kelvin already. Been actually overseeing the seismic side of life for us since the 4th of September last year, and very much a part of the team located for a number of months in the Emergency Operations Centre in Christchurch as well. Stephen Bannister from GNS is here as well, and Jaag Pettinger from the Geological Science Unit at the University of Canterbury, the head of Geoscience. We've got Nick Rogers over the back here, and also Mike Jacker from Tonkin Taylor. So if there are issues later on around some of the engineering context and conditions, they'll be able to respond to some of those for you as well. So the purpose of today really is that I'm not expecting any great new pearls of new information to arrive in front of us today. But I think what has been concerning a number of us in recent days, particularly since the earthquakes on the 23rd of December, has been a number of rumours, a number of concerns and fears that are running around our community. Sorry, Murray Sinclair from Civil Defence at the Christchurch City Council. Welcome along as well, Murray. So we've had a lot of ideas bouncing around in the community around what is happening. We've heard a number of views about, well, how long could this event last for? Is there a major earthquake that is somehow building up somewhere around us at the moment? And I guess the big question that was posed in the Otago Daily Times today was, should we all in fact move to Dunedin? And we suggested that the only benefits that would have would be to help them pay for their stadium and improve the rugby team. So we're not in a hurry to go there, but we love the town just the same. So I think that what I'd like to achieve today is that we give you, at the end of a presentation that I'm going to ask Kelvin to introduce, a chance to ask any questions that you have. Because I think that as a representative group of our community, from our community boards and our councillors who are here, to members of the media, between us all, we can probably ask just about every question that's concerning our communities around all of the seismic issues that we are currently facing. So that's the intention and that's the hope for today. We will be finished before 2 o'clock. We are streaming this live on, I think it's the TV3 website, so that people around the city can tune in if they wish. We're also recording this. We will put a video on the Christchurch City Council website, or at least a link through to that video. We'll be giving a copy to Sarah, and for that matter, once it's online, you can probably copy it yourselves and distribute it to anybody else who wants. The question around tsunamis is also something that is going to come up today. We have a handout already prepared, which is down the back of the room, which is really information which is currently available on different websites, particularly the ECAN website. So, Kelvin, I'm going to ask you if you would mind setting up the presentation. Now, I think the plan is you're going to hand over to Stephen in just a moment. He'll take us through some detailed information on the conditions of the fault lines, where the different fault lines are. We want to know what you know, and I think we also need to deal to one rumour which I've heard from time to time, which is that we're not telling people the full story, that somehow you have information which is so toxically top secret that you can't possibly share it with any of us. I don't believe that is the case, but that's something that I would like you to address for us today as well. So shall we welcome Kelvin along? Thank you for joining us.
Thanks very much. But we are bringing information forward as soon as we do have something that is coherent to say. This is a challenging situation with earthquakes in the Canterbury region, but we want to tell you what we know, updating people from the events starting on December the 23rd through to the present. You'll appreciate that it's been a very busy and disruptive time for people in Christchurch, but it's also been a time when we already had a lot of people away either on leave or we're trying to bring people back from leave to work through the Christmas period. So it's taken a while to pull some of this information together, and I would reassure you that it's not because we are withholding any information. I'm going to start off and talk about just the whole sequence and try and put that into context, and really very much today that's what it is about the most recent spate of earthquakes in the context of now 15, 16 months worth of seismicity in Christchurch. Stephen will talk about the more detailed aspects of the earthquake, and I'll come back and talk about this earthquake with respect to some of the other fault lines around the region. And then we are available, obviously, for a question and answer session. We'd like to run through our little presentation. It's only half a dozen of these large pictures here, which are copied down the back also, and there is a PowerPoint presentation around that can be made available to anybody that would like to have it. Some of the Christchurch City comms people have that available as a PowerPoint presentation. Okay, so I'm just going to step over here. I think that I've got more mics on me than I generally am very comfortable with. I think I need to turn this one on if I'm going to step away and speak to these slides here for a moment.
Do you want me to? Do you want to stay there and I can turn these things, or do you need to?
I think that'll be just fine. And we were planning to. That's okay, and we got some sound. Okay, on this one here now we've plotted all of the seismicity from 4th of September through until the end of December. So it's missing the cluster of particularly on the 2nd of January, but Stephen will talk to that on one of these other slides here. Everybody will know the epicentre of the Darfield earthquake was just a little bit off the Greendale fault. That was a very complicated earthquake in itself, in that it started as a little bit of a reverse fault here. Some other times maybe it wasn't going to go any further and that would have been a magnitude 6.4 out there, and then that would have been all. It so happens that the crust of the earth here must have been strained to the point that it was able to trigger the rupture on the Greendale fault, probably rupturing in both directions. It then triggered a little bit more of a slip on a separate fault down the western end, and this big cloud of seismicity here at the eastern end of the fault near Rolleston is looking like it's tweaked a few other little pieces.
Can I stand on the bar and hold that up so people can see?
It's difficult to see, is it, in the room?
You can't see it. Got handouts?
There are some handouts around.
Yeah, but you can't see where he's pointing to, can you, on the handout?
You want me to lift that up a little bit higher? Just perhaps one of the stands at either end of this. If you come back over here onto, bring it over here, I think, and I'll stand in front of the microphone. Well done. Thank you.
It's we.
You won't be able to see it though. You won't be able to ask any questions either. But thanks all the time.
Right. So that was the sequence through there. We've got these in time slices here also. So those are the aftershocks that are associated with the period up until the 22nd of February. And then, of course, the sequence was renewed in the cluster here, very much the Christchurch earthquake. Notably, though, that there had been some early aftershocks had migrated all the way through into the city from the September event as well. So the red ones there, the red ones covered the time period between February and June. The blue ones are the June event over here, which we could call the Christchurch second event. Interestingly, that ruptured a fault completely in the other direction. Okay. That wasn't as devastating in the city as was February, of course. Slightly smaller earthquake, and a lot of the activity was a little bit further away. You can see, though, that in that June to December period, there's quite a lot of earthquake activity in the blue spots continued in the wider region as well. So this is not specifically in the city, and you can see that there's actually quite a lot of higher than ordinary background activity over quite a large region. And that's why all of our forecast models about the likelihood of future earthquakes really deals to the whole region. It does not specific to the city, because we've seen some migration to the east, and here's some of the aftershocks from the 23rd of December. A little cluster in here was the Boxing Day events of 2010. So that's the overall pattern. It has been a migration to the east, but there is quite a lot of seismicity over the whole region. Now, these earthquakes here, the largest earthquake just on magnitude 6. In terms of our forecast, we were saying the chances of a 5 to 5.9 was about a 50-50 chance in the coming year for the region. We have unfortunately experienced something that at or just a little bit above what our forecast probabilities were. But we were always saying that these were possibilities that continue in that way, that we haven't yet run the new statistics on the forecast now, having had this event. We've seen in the past, though, that when we've had these events, then the probabilities do increase a little bit, and we'll bring those forward as soon as we've run those numbers. But in general, the forecast model has not been, it's been reasonably close. This we're a little bit underdone in terms of its likelihood, but it was always a fair chance that we're going to have something in the high 5s or close on 6. We continue to say that the probability of a 7 or greater continues to be very, very low. It's not 0, but it's low. The other thing I'd like to speak to right now, and we can come back to that in discussion, these were obviously offshore. Probably, and this is a comment in the media, a bit of a throwaway comment, that there probably was a very small tsunami related to the 6. It hasn't been detected anywhere, but then nobody's really looked for it. And that did raise the tsunami question again. The tsunami question was actually dealt with quite comprehensively following the February event in the city, because clearly the seismicity was moving to the east. At that time, some modelling work was done by putting this rupture with all of its displacements, plonking it offshore here and running a hydrodynamic model of that rupture if it had occurred offshore, and we brought those information forward in about April of last year, at the time when there was a lot of concern about the seismicity moving east. If a magnitude 7, something like that, were to occur just offshore here, then there's a small tsunami, maybe 1 to 2 metres on